Hi, my name is Cal-I Jonel, and this is my long story short. And I'm a Jamaican British man. I'm very proud of my Jamaican heritage. I am. My parents both were born in Jamaica, and I have a very strong connection with the country. I think every time I go, I was telling someone yesterday when I step off the plane and I'm back in Jamaica, I feel like I'm in Wakanda. Like the sun hits me differently. I'm just like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to feel. Team, my dad said, hold on a minute, I think you've got like a voice there. And then he just put me on the circuit. I was doing Hackney Empire, Sunday Selection, Delroy Murray and the band, won one of the competitions. Yeah, from back in the day, I was like 14, 13, 14. So those were early kind of memories when like Richard Blackwood was like early on the circuit as a comedian. Like I remember all of that stuff. I joined a group. I was in a group from about age 13 to 26, but this was a gospel group, and we were just all around the country singing, just doing loads of shows, concerts on the gospel circuit. We did an EP, we were in the studio, so that was sort of happening alongside me as an A-level student, well actually as a GCSE student and an A-level student, and into my university years. When I finished, I was a little bit lost. We had this idea that we were going to make it and blow and be this massive group, and the garage was out and we were doing garage, and we thought, yeah, we're going to be the next So Solid, you know what I mean? We're going to do bits. And my first role was in the West End, my first professional role, and that was very surreal. And I think when I was outside the theatre there and I saw my name on the board, that was quite surreal. And I was with my friend and he took a picture and I was like, okay, this is actually happening. And I think there was something about that experience that was quite affirming. Sometimes I'd be the only black guy in the room, or I'd be the only male in the room. So I had to.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? Sophia here from the Long Story Short podcast. Before the episode starts, I want to ask you a very big favor. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. So I just want to say welcome, Cal-I, to the Long Story Short virtual couch.
Yes,
Do you get what I mean? My
we love that.
studio type of thing. But now, thank you. I know I say this to every guest, and sometimes you think, oh my gosh, am I coming across corny? But it's so true. I so appreciate you
Mm,
taking a time out from
mm,
your busy schedule. Do you get what I mean? I know
mm.
today you're
Yeah,
really busy
yeah. Yeah.
to come and join me and share your long story short with me
Mm.
today.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to be here. I love the name as well. I actually really love the name of this podcast. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling that. But it's just great to be here. I love to share the journey. I love to chop it up with people that want to talk about just things that will hopefully inspire others, but also just add another perspective to the narrative,
Mm.
just about, creatives, me as a Black British man as well. That's just so important for me to establish a narrative that is really clear. And is really grounded and this is the word I'm looking for, wholesome. That's it. Yeah. That's
Mm.
really important. I'm a family man, so yeah, any opportunity to talk about the journey and share something that might help someone is a privilege.
And you know what? I'm so glad that you mentioned about ensuring that, you own your own narrative,
Hmm.
not media is saying, oh, black men are like this type of thing. But you say,
100%.
no, black men are like this. I'm family orientated. I've got
Yeah.
businesses type of thing, and I'm
Mhm.
successful,
Mhm.
and I think that is important. And as well as one of the many reasons as to why I started Long Story Short. Do you get
Mm.
what I mean? It's because I want for ordinary people, do you know what I mean? For them to share their own stories, for them to claim their own narrative, not to say Susie and Tommy is doing this.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
Kalai is doing this, and this is his long story short. And I know that it would inspire many, I
Mm.
know it would inspire many.
Yeah.
So, the first question I always ask my guests, because
Hmm.
me is quite a deep thinker. So
Okay.
you know? So the first question I always like to ask is who the person is. Do you get what I mean? So who is
Mm.
Kalai?
Wow. Okay. So firstly, I'm a human being. Like seriously, that's something that is really, really my thing. Really now, I guess it's because I love people. I love connecting with people. I've always been quite an open person. In that I tend to try and practice listening before I speak. if I walk into a room, even though I do love to talk. So I think just establishing myself as a human being first just means that actually anybody I meet is worthy of conversation. I really am an advocate for that. So there's that, and then I've got to say I'm a creative at heart. I think I've always known that. Um, just every sinew, bone, piece of flesh in my body just loves to create. So creative expression, but also like creative excellence is a really important part of, I guess, my kind of mantra and what keeps me going. I'm a family man. I love my family. Um, and that's really important. I've got three children. I've been married for 18 years now, to my wife Sarah, and I think family is yeah, just vital, really. So I think seeing them and help cultivating them to excel and fulfill their potential is important to me. So I think family sort of is a defining characteristic of me. I'm a child of God. I'm a man of faith. So I've been a Christian for since I don't know what 14, and I've just been on that journey. So I think that's a vital part of, I guess, my moral compass and also my perspective maybe on things and how I navigate and view the world and explore the world and approach everything, even in terms of my creativity and excellence. And I'm a Jamaican British man. I'm very proud of my Jamaican heritage. I am. My parents both were born in Jamaica, and I have a very strong connection with the country. I think every time I go, I was telling someone yesterday when I step off the plane and I'm back in Jamaica, I feel like I'm in Wakanda. Like I just the sun hits me differently. I'm just like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to feel. This is how bananas are supposed to taste. So that for me is yeah a big part of my identity as well, I guess, in terms of yeah being Jamaican and also growing up in Britain is a part of that. But Jamaican British is yes that's yeah a bit of who I am really. Yeah.
That's a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is a lot, and I love hearing it as well, because it gives me an insight into maybe a little part of your long story short, and as maybe
Mm,
opposed to why you're doing what you're doing, and as well you talk about your moral compass and
mm,
creative excellence and all of that, and also it does have a impact, isn't it, about what we do in terms of our heritage. I
mm,
am, my mum's Jamaican, my dad's from Barbados, and that
mm.
Caribbean heritage is just
Yeah,
through my body, man. And it's
100%.
so true. When you go back to the Caribbean, a banana tastes like a banana, chicken tastes
100%.
like chicken.
You're like, yeah, it's true.
There's no is this chicken or
That's right.
something else.
Yeah.
But you know what? I want to say, like, big up to you, because
Thank
me and
you.
my good friend Amanda McCarthy, I'm hailing her out on this.
Mm.
We saw your play, No, Mr. Nice Guy, in Catford.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, we
yes,
was at the
yes.
front,
Oh, wow.
at the front,
Thank
man,
you for
and
coming.
it
Wow.
was brilliant.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
absolutely brilliant. I don't know how you done what you done. It was just
you.
you won. And it was
Yeah.
intense, it was funny, it was serious, it was brilliant.
Thank
So
you so
when
much.
you talk about creative excellence, I can see it coming through. Do you get
Yeah,
what I
yeah, I
mean? In terms
appreciate
of
that.
how you perform, I'm like
Mm.
Oscar nominee. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Seriously,
Thank
Oscar
you.
nominee. And it says here, because I'm reading my notes,
Mm.
Offie nominated and you've toured internationally. So, in terms of your long story short, let's start chopping that up. So,
Yeah.
what sort of like planted your first seed about acting and theatre work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've always been creative growing up, and I think I come from a family of there's like six of us in terms of siblings, and I remember me and my one of my older sisters, Shan, we're 18 months apart, like my two actually, two of my two, and we used to create our own comics when we were bored, and we used to record our own like mixtapes, and we were just so creative growing up, and for us it was just play. So we never saw it as we're being creative or we're trying to do this or that. We were just playing and making discoveries. And I think when I think of creativity now and my childhood, I remember those days. I remember being at my mum's fashion show, and I was meant to be donning some clothes because my mum's a tailor. She makes clothes, and all sorts. Very, very gifted woman. And I remember I was meant to be just out there wearing the clothes and then walking back, having an outfit change. And I decided to dive on the floor and do a windmill, some little breakdance move, and the crowd went wild. And I think I couldn't have been older than maybe 8 or 9, I think. And I remember that moment. That's very visceral to me. So I knew I had like a creative spark, a desire to entertain or to connect with a crowd. When I was 10, I think, is when I started singing properly. So me and my dad would do little mixtapes. My dad was into acting, because so I did see my dad do it as well, because he did lots of things actually, a little bit like myself, sort of jumped around and did various things. But I do remember him doing a stint in the theatre in the Hackney Empire, and he would do plays every now and again. It was like a side hobby. So I remember seeing that. But we used to like cut mixtapes together. So he was a DJ, and he was an MC, and he would bring me on. And there's early tapes of me doing a little MCing on the microphone and him recording it. So I started singing at 10, and every night I would sing the same song to sing myself to sleep. I can't remember who sings it now, but it was like only you. Da, 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 da. So a really kind of classic kind of soul song. That was my song. And then at age 13, my dad said, hold on a minute. I think you've got like a voice there. And then he just put me on the circuit. I was doing Hackney Empire, Sunday Selection, Delroy Murray and the band, won one of the competitions. Yeah, from back in the day, I was like 14, 13, 14. So those were early kind of memories when like Richard Blackwood was like early on the circuit as a comedian. Like I remember all of that stuff. So I was a kid then, and those were my early kind of ramblings as a creative that I think just shaped me. And then I think the drama seed was year 9. So my drama teacher, God rest her soul, Miss Arnold, she saw me in the year 9 class. I think I performed a section of a Shakespeare play. It was from Romeo and Juliet. And at the end of the lesson, she came up to me and said, "Look, I really think you should study drama." And that was like the one of the earliest memories of someone seeing my ability as like an actor. And I think the rest is history from there. Like once I was on that pathway and I did GCC drama, like I think my heart was just, even though I kind of veered away and came back to it, it had stolen my heart from then.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful story because when you was talking about Delroy Murray, then I'm thinking about the Black History Hall of Fame in
Mm.
Hackney Empire because I remember my mum took me to go and see it, and just hearing about your early influences of acting and that having that, did you have that self-belief that you were good, that you can sing and
Yeah.
everything?
I think from when I was 14, I think when I did the Hackney Empire, and that went really well. I didn't win that particular because I did it a couple of times, and the second time I'd won, first time I didn't. But it was a great learning curve. But I think I knew that I could sing. First of all, my first time, no, I think I did Haggerston Park open air concert. Oh, Sophia, I was petrified. My legs were gonna like just release underneath me. I was so afraid that I'd be laughed off the stage. I think once I got through that, it kind of gave me the confidence to go on. And I think then after that, I started realizing, oh, actually, okay, I think I can hold my own. And it's been kind of up and down since then, the imposter syndrome and whatnot. But I think I definitely had an inkling that, oh, actually, I think I've got something.
And you know what? Respect to your teacher. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a link between education and what you're doing now, isn't
Massively.
it? Do you know what I mean? It's
Massively.
like it captured you. And as you said, you've gone full circle now, isn't it?
Mm,
So I want us to have a deep dive into that. I want us
yeah.
to have a talk about, so after you finished your GCSEs, what happened next?
GCSEs, I then did my A levels, and I remember having that conversation with my dad because he said, you're gonna do subjects that are gonna get you a job, because our parents were about survival, right? So even though he had encouraged my creative instincts when I was younger, he was always quite hot on no, but education first, which I understand and I get. And I think he just, I guess as a dad, you're looking at your son and going, well, I want you to have security, and I'm not sure if this pathway is going to give you that. So there was a tug, and I think I chose business studies, computing, and like something like music because I was into music, but I didn't study music GCSE. And then my drama teacher found me. She stalked me down in the common room and said, "What are you playing at? Why have you not chosen drama A level? Like you're doing drama A level." She pretty much told me I was doing it, and I said, "Okay." So I chose drama A level. Didn't tell my dad, and I did drama, business studies, and computing, and went through my A levels. That was a strange period. I don't think I was connected very much with computing and business studies, but I really excelled at drama. So that was a great experience. I made lots of great friends and memories, but I always say my A level years was like a bit of a strange blip, though I still had my drama to keep me going. And then I think after that, it was just a period of I joined a group. I was in a group from about age 13 to 26, but this was a group, a gospel group, and we'd rehearse every Thursday. So I got my 10,000 hours in as a performer, singer, rapper, writer. We were doing that every week, five of us in the group. And we were just all around the country singing, just doing loads of shows, concerts on the gospel circuit. We did an EP, we were in the studio. So that was sort of happening alongside me as an A level student, well, actually, as a GCSE student and an A level student, and into my university years. But I think when I left my A levels, when I finished, I was a little bit lost. We had this idea that we were going to make it and blow and be this massive group, and the garage was out, and we were doing garage, and we thought, yeah, we're going to be the next So Solid. You know what I mean? We're going to do bits, and we'd written some great stuff, but we just didn't have any management or any direction. Social media wasn't a thing then, so I was just floating around. Decided to take a year out until one day my dad said, "What are you doing at home? Like you just." You can eat chicken and chips and well, no, this ain't happening. So he said, "You're going to uni," and then I enrolled in a course for digital media and cultural studies at London Met. Didn't even know what it was about. I just thought, let me just do it, and had a great time doing that. And then fell into teaching. I feel like it was divine because Zara, my wife, friend then, was going into teaching, and that's how I kind of found my journey into teaching. And because I had such a positive experience at my school as a GCSE student with my drama teacher, I actually went back to that school and ended up training there to be a teacher and worked with her. She was my head of department for a period of time. Yeah,
Wow, look at that
yeah,
360. Do you
yeah.
know what? As you know, thinking about mentors play such a pivotal role in people's life, isn't it? I was on a call, I think about a week ago, and one of the ladies said to me, how important are mentors in your life in terms of, your whole career journey and everything? So how important was your drama teacher's influence in your life?
Mm. Oh, massive. Um, Massive because number one, she saw something in me and she saw me and she made that clear. So she almost pulled it out of me. And I think everyone needs someone to believe in them to a level because sometimes in our own minds we feel like it could be delusional or actually am I kidding myself, am I fooling myself? So I almost feel like it's important to have someone that can affirm what is in you and what you feel like is in you. Some people maybe don't need that, but I do think from what I've seen and most of the people I've met and come across and have mentored or spoken to, having a mentor to just show you a path, a direction, an example where not to step, where to step, because I didn't really have an understanding of even the drama school landscape. So even when I did go through and do my A levels, I didn't understand anything about drama school or that you could even go to a drama school. That just wasn't a part of my surroundings. So she really kind of just, I think she showed me that I had an ability to connect with people through creative arts and certainly drama, that I could devise and that I could create and that I could be spontaneous and that I loved comedy and that I was just like sort of multifaceted. And yeah, she was just so generous with her time with that. I think she really found time for me. I didn't feel like I felt like it went beyond me being a student, and it was actually because she became a friend. I sang at her wedding. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I sang she passed away. I sang at her funeral. So it was just so wonderful to have someone that really helped to shape my understanding and know that that it was a thing that I could do. So even when I left it and went into teaching and got the mortgage and got married and had this stable job, it never left me. Like I remember her saying, okay, if you become like a successful actor, you've got to take me to Jamaica, because I was always boasting about Jamaica and the trips I'd go with my family. I said, you know what, if that happens, I'm coming back and I'm taking you to Jamaica. And that was always a thing. We'd have this conversation online when we'd lost contact and then came back in contact. Okay, I'm still going to take you to Jamaica. And I think there was something about that kind of kept me going. Oh, I've got to do it for Miss Arnold. Like I've got to make it for Miss Arnold. And having that in a mentor was just so powerful for me. Yeah.
Mm. And it's permeating through what you're doing now, isn't it, Mrs. Arnold, her spirit in terms of what
Mm,
you're doing now? You know, you're going
mm.
back to acting, but
Yeah.
even though you remained in education for a while. So did you teach drama?
I did. I taught drama and media studies at my first school, and then I then went on to a second school and taught pretty much media studies. And then I was the head of department at one point in South London, and it was all media studies drama, a bit of English, and then most of my career I was a media studies teacher.
So
Mm.
during that time of you going into, they call it a stable job. Do you
Hmm.
get what I mean?
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you still have that drawing to do acting? What was going on in your mind during that time?
Mm. I think when I was working as a teacher, what I loved was connecting with young people, and I knew that one of like three of my mantras is kind of creative excellence, inspiring and motivating others, and then of course family and cultivating family. So what I was getting from education was the ability to connect with young people and inspire them, motivate them, and something about that felt really rewarding, and it felt like I was just shaping something and doing something quite purposeful. So when I was there, though, I think what happened is I'd entered teaching at, I was quite young, I was in my early 20s, and I was full of energy. I was the teacher playing basketball with the kids, the sixth formers on the court. Um, and I was just kind of had that kind of hip young energy. And then of course, as I kind of moved through my career, you mature and you learn how to navigate certain spaces and how to, okay, then I became Mr. Muirhead, the teacher. And I think I started to silence my creative voice, and I think the energy that I had for creativity was no longer there because I was so engrossed in the role of being, I wouldn't say just being a teacher, I would say all of the work that I took home outside of it. So all of the marking and the red tape and the paperwork and the targets and the stress of the job, which is so rewarding, but also so incredibly strenuous. I don't think I had time or energy to be creative. And I think I just started to silence that voice. Yeah, a lot of the inhibitions came back in, and every now and again, like every year, I'll try set myself challenges, and I'll say, okay, right, this year I've done this role, so I've got to try another role next year. I've got to apply for that role, and I was always trying to level up, but I'd gotten to a point in my career where I was just afraid of change and challenge, and I knew that something was off. So yeah, whilst I was still trying to do my music on the side, sort of around 2013, I did an EP and I tried to release some stuff and I did do some bits. It was never quite reaching the potential it could reach because I think I was playing small, number one. I'd become a little bit afraid of putting myself out there because I was a teacher and I didn't want to make a mistake and make them look like just, I mean, nothing I was doing would have probably done that. But I think in my head, I told myself that I just got to be careful, and I didn't understand this new landscape of social media and all that kind of thing. So yeah, my silent, the creative voice and spirit in me definitely started to silence and just was being locked away a little bit. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and I felt that.
So your spirit and your creative voice started to silence. So
Mm,
what was that moment of change? Like what happened? Do you get what I mean?
yeah.
Because I've been there. I've
Mm,
was in a season where I just felt stuck.
mm,
You get what I mean? I
mhm,
knew what it is that I wanted to do,
mm,
but I just couldn't get the impetus. Do you know what I mean? The motivation, the drive to do it. And a lot of it was embedded in fear.
yeah.
I was fearful of failure, fearful of what people's opinions were of me if I were to
Mhm,
go along this certain route. Do you get what I mean? And also fearful of the unknown, thinking, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work out? You know, how silly would I look? That was me. Those were the thoughts that I was having. And also thinking, am I even good enough for this? You know, who am I to think that I'm doing this? The silly things that we tell ourselves. Do you get what I mean? Silly, silly, silly. So
mm,
the question that I want to ask you is, so what was that moment of change for you that
mm.
got you out of that funk? Do you
Yeah,
get what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
To
of
lead you
course.
now on this journey.
Of course, and it's amazing that you say all of that because I was saying all of those things to myself that you've just mentioned, all of it. Yeah, the fear was massive. So I was at my second school. No, yeah, my second school, and I had a friend that I'd worked with in the office beside me, my friend Ian, and he always knew I was a creative, and he'd help me do some like music videos for projects and stuff. So he started to encourage me to kind of come out my shell a little bit more, which was quite interesting and quite valuable. A lot of respect for him, and what happened was there was a show called Hamilton, which you may have probably have heard of, and it was coming to the UK. It'd been in the US. I'd been listening to the soundtrack. Ian had put me onto it, and he said they're bringing the show to the UK. Now I hadn't auditioned since I was 13, and I was big 30 something, I think, or either late 20s, early 30s, I think, probably early 30s. And I thought, okay, it's an open call. So let me just give it a try. Now, just before this, I think I saw Motown with my wife for we were on a date. I think it was just like an anniversary date or something. We saw Motown. And I remember seeing Cedric Neal and just being absolutely captivated by his performance as Berry Gordy. And I was just thinking, wow, like to see someone use their instrument so beautifully and so just magnificently, just had every hair on my body standing up. So I think that kind of left me with this idea of okay, this is something that looks like something that I would love to do. Now it was musical theatre at the time, but of course in my mind I'm so far removed from that. So when Hamilton was coming to the UK, I'd listen to the soundtrack and it stylistically it was like a lot of hip hop and R&B, and I thought this is right up my alley. Let me just give it a shot. Let me just push the boat out. I've been doing the work in terms of just starting to feel more creative. And that soundtrack from that show had a profound impact on me in terms of me hearing something that sounded like me for the first time in this industry that felt so far away from me. So when I went to my headmaster, my boss at the time, it was two of them, my boss at headmaster and deputy, and I said, there's this open call and it's for a musical. It's a bit of a dream. I think I might have even said pipe dream, but I'd love to go along because obviously they're going to give me cover of classes. I'm thinking they're never going to give me this. I said, you know what? Okay, like go for it. That's fine. So I said, okay, all right, I'll go for it. So I went for this audition for this musical. I'd managed to get, I think it was a recall. So they called me in again, and I'd had no training since like college. So I was so rusty, so raw, but I was so excited to get this recall. And I didn't hear anything back. They didn't get back in touch with me, and that's how it is in the industry. What I didn't realize is that you can do an audition, like an interview. We do an interview. Normally, you'd get feedback. You've got it or you haven't, or this is what you could do better. This is what we liked. Maybe think about this. In the theater industry, you just might not even hear back like anything at all. So you can do hundreds of auditions. You'll hear when you've got it, but most of the time you won't hear a thing if you haven't. You just see when it's out and whoever they've cast in the show. So it can be quite brutal. So I was just waiting and waiting, and I did not know what to do with myself because I was so gutted that I'd kind of gone out there and put myself out there. And I thought, again, how silly am I? But what it did is it sparked something in me. And I thought, you know what? The feeling was so beyond what I could describe. Like I have to find a way to get better at this so that I can walk into a room and do this. And that's when I started going on this journey of self-discovery, booking courses, and then eventually left teaching, scaling back kind of like progressively. I did another school after that and was a head of department for like a whole 2 years. So it was years after that, but it took me probably 4 or 5 years before I'd left teaching and then went back to train to then do the thing. But that moment there is what kind of rewired my brain, I think, and puts planted a seed that would just meant I was like, okay, I'm on this relentless pursuit to kind of whatever that is, I'm gonna chase that.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're talking about that moment when you was watching Motown.
The moment when I was watching Motown, I think it opened me up. But I
Mm.
think getting the audition for Hamilton and then doing the recall as this teacher that was kind of quite fresh but raw, I was like, I think it reawakened the giant. Let's say that. Yeah. That giant that was when I was like 21, when I was 8 years old, when I was 14, and I was full of confidence. It was like it kind of called to that version of me and said, where are you? Like, come out. Come out.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of like
Yeah.
reignited, isn't it? Reignited
100%.
that passion and that
Yeah.
purpose to get back. It's like it was calling you back.
100%.
So was
Yeah.
there like a conflict because in terms of your head of year,
Mm.
and you're leading a department and you're
Mhm.
having impact in a school and everything,
Mm.
but yet your purpose is acting, is being out there, being a performer. Was there a
Mm.
conflict?
Um, to be honest with you, I think I'd always tried to. filter in creative moments in when I was a teacher, and people would always say, "Oh gosh, you're like, I think in your head you probably like you're daydreaming about being in a music video," because I was always so creative. That's what my head of department would say to me once when I kind of did this project, and so I found ways to pour myself into creativity and to cultivate children to do projects to almost feed it. It wasn't enough, but I found ways. In terms of the like a conflict, that's a really good question. I almost feel like because I scaled back progressively, because I went to a school and was a head of department, I think the conflict was internal. And because it was internal, that's why at my third school I started to get ill. And that's when I was like, right, I'm out. Like I've got to go. And then 4 years later, I was like out of teaching. So it happened in stages. I was ignited in my second school. Then I've gone to my next school because I needed a challenge, and I think that was important for me. And then in my second year at that school, I was getting ill. I was going to see like a chiropractor because my back was just like messed up, but it was stress. I hadn't noticed that at the time, and I'd realized that okay, that something has to like I have to do this, like I don't have a choice. So I started to scale back progressively over 4 years, went back to my old school, my second school. I did 2.5 days, 2 days, and then I left. But during that time, I was doing loads of creative courses, throwing myself into different rooms, meeting people, making connections, working on my mindset, so that when I was ready, I was like bulletproof. Do you know what I mean? When I was ready to leave, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'd save money. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And Zara would support me along the way. So that kind of I think that process meant that I did it progressively, I guess, because I feel like nothing happens like kind of they talk about overnight successes, but actually when you look, they've always had incremental improvements over time, and then there's like the call it the big break then, but I call it the big build, because the big break doesn't happen unless there's these kind of small moments of building, these small steps that happen that lead to the big moves. So the conflict, yeah, I think the conflict was internal. Yeah.
And you know, when you said that, how you had to go and see a chiropractor,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking that that's why it's so important for us to pursue our goals and our ambitions,
Oh
because
my
then
gosh.
there is always an impact upon health, isn't it? Internally.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was going through your head at that time? You know, did you know that there was a link between your chiropractor issues going on and you
Mm.
not, doing what you wanted to do?
Mm.
Did you know that there was a link there?
I don't think I understood it fully yet. I think I just thought I'm stressed out and I've maybe neglected my body a bit, haven't been training, and okay, I'm starting to feel it. And I think it was only really when I started doing some of the courses that I was doing and going into rooms and realizing that it was like how it would make me feel when I left. I felt like I remember doing some evening drama classes at RADA, for example, and just I wasn't feeling pain when I was doing it. Like I was so alive in the room. I would leave the room and feel so alive. I thought, oh my gosh, that's how I want to feel when if I'm gonna spend my time and my hours and my energy doing something, that's how I want to leave the room feeling. So I think I started to realize that there may have been a link. But when I finally then left teaching, because I was part-time for a couple of years, and it then meant I had time to just rest and try things, and I started to do the work healing my body. Um, but when I went back to drama school to train, I then realized, oh, all of that stuff that was happening to me. Like, I think honestly, Sophia, I look at pictures of me when I was in teaching in my kind of final, say, several years, and I look at myself now, and I feel like I look younger now than I did when I was teaching. And to me, that doesn't make sense. But I look back and go, okay, I was, it's like when it's like taking a fish out of water. You can't breathe. Like I was in the wrong, I don't say teaching was a wrong element because it did so many things for me. And I think I was meant to require those skills and make those connections and have that impact. But I think the red tape of the role and maybe I wasn't meant to stay that long, but I do think it just wasn't the environment for me to stay in because it was messing me up. So when I then became fully fledged in the creative field, my body was changing. I was like I'd feel alive and just like I felt more connected. I understood just me in terms of my connected to my breath and my breathing and my thought process and my feelings and then my actions. And I just started to understand myself. understand what my strengths were. I was way more aware, and I wasn't just concentrating now. I was like paying attention. Like I was like, I can see like what's going on. I can see. I was like, yes, this is where I'm meant to be. This is my natural habitat.
Oh, this is good stuff, you know. I'm sitting here and I don't think you understand. My heart is beating so fast.
Yeah,
And yeah, this is good stuff that you're
yeah.
sharing. Oh my gosh. So, what type of mindset changes did you have to do in order to
Mm,
get where you are now?
yeah.
Because so many people will remain within their 9 to 5. Do you get what I mean?
Hmm.
So many people will remain stuck. But what did you practically have to do in order to move from A to B? What did you
Mm.
do?
So I read a lot of Miles Monroe when I was younger, and yeah, I mean, he just changed my life. So there was that, and he'd talk a lot about, there's a leadership, there is a leader in everyone, and the whole thing about renewing your mind and understanding that it's actually going back to your original purpose. So I began to realize, I'm just operating in a version of me that I was never meant to be. That like I've got to go back and renew and kind of reprogram who I was always called to be. Like I wasn't. It's not like I'm discovering something new. I'm just rediscovering who God has created me to be. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, it's actually it's attainable because I'm actually just gonna pull out. I had to fight to pull out who this version of me was, and I think it was like I did a lot of reading around just again that sort of mindset. I'd worked with a coach during the lockdown. That was quite transformative. Guy called Mervyn Barrett, and we spoke a lot about mindset and the thought feeling connection. And I did a lot of reading, and I remember when I was during that time, like I remember looking at a video of Bell Hooks. She was in like a talk, the late Bell Hooks, rest her soul, and she was talking about they were talking about like mindset and identity, and they spoke about the attention that we place on institutions when we're frustrated, and how we kind of like, you're oppressing us, like sort this out, change this, give us an opportunity. And they said what happens is we spend so much energy doing that we don't use the same energy to self-actualize. So one of the things she said which stayed with me was we have to remove the shackles from our imagination. So I was like, come again? And I remember reading things on like growth mindset by Carol Dweck and like bits and pieces, knowing that, there's a fixed mindset, there's a growth mindset. So I would always know that like I had a strong mindset because I was a successful teacher. I knew how to be disciplined. I knew how to be motivated. All of those things were in place, but I had a poor imagination because I wouldn't imagine more for my life. So when I started to imagine more for myself, that paired with a strong mindset, I was like, okay, I'm unstoppable. Okay, I can do this. Like I've got it in me. I filled myself up with training. I did the work. Like I spent so much money investing in myself. And again, all of that was it was a series of things, surrounding myself with the right people, going in the right spaces and being comfortable, being uncomfortable. It was like a myriad of things that just started to reshape and mold my mindset. But I will say that I do think I go back to it. I think my early kind of introduction to Miles Monroe, I think was very significant because I think that just stayed with me from like age 26 to now. I was like, yeah, I'm a leader, like born.
Born leader. I mean, we talk about Miles Monroe. I've definitely read quite a few of his books
Mm,
as well because I love, literature about personal
yeah,
development and
yeah, same.
mindset and everything. And your environment is exceptionally key to your own success. But what about those who don't have that environment? Do you get
Yeah,
what I mean? That
yeah.
positive environment for things to be poured into them so that they're able
Mm,
to be successful and stuff. What advice would you give to
mm.
them?
That's a great question. Um, it's really difficult. Like it can be difficult. I think what I've always said to friends is if you're in a situation where you do feel a little bit stuck or a little bit lost or unsure, and some people love the 9 to 5, and I've got people that teach that like they love that, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's for you. But if I could speak to the people that are in those situations and desperately feel like they need something different, I've always said, go and do something that takes you out of your comfort zone. Like just do one thing. So I mean, one of the things I've always said to friends is, look, I think everyone should just go and do like a drama class. Like just go to a drama class, a workshop, and just allow someone to like just pull you out of your comfort zone. Because because what you do, you go in and you're encouraged to go in as a blank canvas. And it's this idea that you leave all of the stuff that we carry, we leave it at the door, and for a moment in time, you can imagine and you can play and imagine that you are something or somebody else, or you're just in a situation where you're not even thinking about anything else. Everything encourages you to be very present in that very moment, to listen actively, and everything that is happening this moment right now, we're not worried about later, we're not worried about before, it's right now. And I think there's something about that that allows you to pay attention to everything that's going on inside of you, and all of your feelings, your emotions, and you're just aware of people. And I just think it opens you up. It really does. And I've seen it open people up that I've studied with, that they didn't go on to be actors, but they went on to do marvelous things. But the time they spent in those creative spaces just took away all of the layers, and revealed some of the things that had been kind of hidden away for so long.
You talked about, which I call the zone of uncomfortability,
Okay.
the the how can I say, being happy, being contented with being uncomfortable. Tell
Yeah.
me about that.
So yeah, so when I was in my when I was teaching, definitely during my sort of like, yeah, my second school, I remember just like I was booking these courses, and some of the courses were nothing to do with anything I wanted to do. It was like about just I think I did one course about, it was like a business course, and it was about this pie company that were really successful. But I'd just gone in the room and I just wanted to learn how they became successful. And I'd meet these people, and sometimes I'd be the only black guy in the room, or I'd be the only male in the room. And there was something about that that forced me to have conversations with people I wouldn't normally talk to learn things that I wouldn't have learned because I never would have had conversations with those people. Um, and I think it was just like, it was just this desire to never feel like I was becoming complacent. Because for me, complacency doesn't correlate with excellence, and doesn't correlate with like forward progressing movement. Just being complacent and just kind of, I mean, that's not even contentment, because complacency is just, okay, I'm comfortable, so I'm not going to challenge myself. And I think there was something about that I knew that wasn't my portion. So I didn't want to feel afraid anymore of taking risks. So I had to be a little bit afraid, and kind of be in a room and feel a little bit unsure or nervous, or maybe even feel like I'm not the smartest person in this room, like, and that's okay, because it just reveals to me that, okay, well, there's more for me to learn. Like, I'm never comfortable feeling like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know this thing. Like, I know acting, or I know I'm a writer. I know how to do this. Like, there's never a moment where I'm feeling that way. And I think doing those courses, I did some like Guardian master classes, did some classes at RADA, went to like an audition for a drama school, and we had to do movement. I was so uncomfortable because I was the oldest guy in the room, and I had all these young people in there. And at one point, she turned the lights off and they turned them back on, and they put on some music and telling us move your hips and did it. And I was so conscious because I'd not done that with my body in so long. But I thought, okay, well, I'm here, so I just have to do it. I'm not going to waste my time. And I think there was something about that just kind of reconnected me with this feeling of uncomfortability. But then the feeling you get afterwards when you think, I did it, so I can do that.
Because
Yeah,
even though you've been the only one, maybe in terms of age, being a black man, being a man
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
you still pursued it on. And what I love is that when you're in that zone of comfortability, and exactly what you said, when you come out of it, you think, oh my gosh, that wasn't as hard as I
yeah.
thought. It's the mindset,
It
it's the
is.
barriers that we put up.
I'm telling you, it's like going to the gym, I think, because I train a lot now. And I think when you walk, and even still, even though I train a lot, I know the gym, even that journey to the gym, my brain is like, oh God, I gotta do that work. I'm gonna have to, okay, I lifted that last week, so I probably have to do a little incremental rise and like lift more, and it's gonna feel, and I'm thinking about the whole journey and how it's gonna feel, and but actually I'm still going. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go. Right, okay, I'm in now. Okay, I'm at the locker. Okay, I'm at the bar. All right, okay, I'm gonna do this deadlift. All right, I'm putting the weights on. All right, I'm gonna go up again. And I do the first rep. I'm like, okay, I'll do the next rep. And it's just almost having that conversation with yourself the whole time, because it never gets easier. Our capacity for more just increases. But it never gets easier. So I think there's something about life that, and people ask me sometimes, like, what are you training for? Why do you train? I said, I'm training for life. Like, life is the event I'm training for, because that, for me, that's a microcosm. Pushing myself I say pushing myself, I say training then, because I don't think you need to batter your body, but I think training and challenging myself in the gym is a microcosm for how I do life. Yeah.
I love that. Life is the event that I'm training for. It's so true because I go to this thing called Fit to Fight, and
Okay.
the trainer Greg Francis, he always says, "Do you know what I mean? This is training. This is not you go to the leisure center and you do aerobics. You're training your
That's it.
body. And what is great." All different age groups, all different ethnicities, just training together.
Mm.
And every single session is always very hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's never
That's it.
easy. It is
That's it.
never easy. It's
That is
always
it.
hard. And people say, "Oh, so if you've been doing that for a few years now, it should be easy." No, it's not.
No,
Every Monday is always a challenge. So
that is
my
it.
thing with regards to complacency,
Mm.
and you share something really poignant about that. And I want to find out, when you've been on stage, has there
Yeah.
been a point where you thought, this is it? Like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, like I have actually arrived. Like all of the things that I was going through, like going through the chiropractor business, do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
had healing from that. And as well as, going through your journey, head of year and school and stuff. On stage, and
Mm.
you thought, yeah, this is it.
Um, when I've it's kind of happened in many little stages. And I think when I did, because I did my first role was in the West End, my first professional role, and that was very surreal. And I think when I was outside the theatre there and I saw my name on the board, that was quite surreal. And I was with my friend and he took a picture and I was like, okay, this is actually happening. And I think there was something about that experience that was quite affirming and quite sort of like, okay, this feels like I've gotten to a point. But I've got a friend, my friend Tony, who's also a creative on the journey, and she always says like, you're breaking these mini glass ceilings along the way, Cal, and you're constantly up leveling, but you're breaking these mini glass ceilings to give you capacity for the next level. And I feel like that's kind of what's been happening over the years. So even when I did No More Mr. Nice Guy, that for me was, I think, probably the strongest moment where I said, okay, this is my playground. Like I belong here. This is where I'm meant to be, because it was everything that I dreamed about doing, all in this kind of piece with this wonderful creative team. And I was doing it. I was telling this story, and I'd had that story in my mind for so many years, sat on the train, commuting to work, and elements of that story. To be doing that and touring that around the country, I think was a moment where I said, okay, this feels like this definitely this is who I am. And I think from there I thought, how can I go back? Like how can I turn around and go back to where I was? Because it's got to go. It's got this is if I could say it was a checkpoint, like it's got to be from here onwards. Like I can't do any less than this. So that was a big moment for me.
I think
Yeah.
what you said is really encouraging
Mm.
because, a lot of people will have dreams and aspirations, but they would maybe be fearful of taking
Mm.
that step. But
Yeah.
you have shown through your long story short that you have taken that step of faith, obviously
Mm.
equipped with talent and expertise and all those wonderful stuff,
Mm.
and it's happening, and you're now
Mm.
living in your dream, your
Mm.
aspiration, your goal. How
Yeah.
amazing is that? Do you get what I mean? So
Yeah.
we really have to, this is so encouraging, I feel,
Mm.
for people
Great.
to say, do you know what, you don't have to stay where you are. If you want to get unstuck, these are the things that you need to do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think it's my big mantra is small steps, big moves. So it's always that you got to take the small step. Like it takes a penny to make a pound. So take the step, because when you take the step, then the next step will become clearer, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, just like going to the gym, and you start small and then you build up from there. Like nothing is going to just happen. And sometimes maybe in this society, because we see things around us that look like it's happened overnight, we can get so consumed by that. We're just bombarded with this content that all we see is the result that people are displaying. So we don't always see the journey they go on. And I think that's why my whole thing really is about really celebrating and embracing and talking about the journey, because the journey really is the destination. That is the thing where you're going to develop, right? You know this, and I think that's for me, that's what it's about. Small steps, big moves, and that growth imagination, which is to imagine more for yourself. Have the mindset, do the work, but imagine more, because no one can infiltrate this imagination here. No one can see what's going on in that mind. So if you can do some stuff in here and then get it on the other side of your face, then You're onto
Sometimes we need
something.
like a brain transplant, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I'm
then
telling you.
replace
I'm
it.
telling you. I'm
Oh my
telling
God. So what's next for you? What's happening?
Still writing. I'm developing my second play, which is a two-hander, and that's currently in development. So I'm really excited about that. And it's about two Caribbean British brothers. So I'm really about kind of putting Caribbean voices on the stage. So yeah, that's really really fun. And then yeah, just lots of got auditioning. I've got auditions today, like self tapes and stuff to do, and projects next week. And so like lots of strands of things happening in the theatre and screen, which I'm either auditioning for or will be coming out. And yeah, I think I'm just got my fingers in lots of creative pies really, which is always fun. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, man. I say you are definitely one to watch out for. Do you get
Thank
what I
you.
mean? I am
Thank
just
you.
so glad to be seeing your journey. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from, I said, was it last year? It was No Mr. Nice Guy. Was it
Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah.
year?
No more. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It feels like
It
it
was
was last
so
year.
good.
Yeah.
So
Thank
good.
you.
So as we're wrapping up, what
Yeah.
would you like people to remember about your long story short?
I would like them to remember um, to live full and die empty, which is one of Miles Monroe's big things. You cannot take your gifts to the grave. So don't bury them there. The grave, he would say the graveyard is the richest place. So I really want people to take away the idea that empty yourself out into this world. That the gift that you've been given is for giving. Um, but it doesn't happen without the small steps, which then lead to the big move. So don't be afraid of the small step. And if I could say this, final thing is I know that it seems like I do a lot of things, but I would say, I've been told before that, this is if you're good at that, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. But my thing is, listen, we were born to fly. So don't let anyone put you in a box or put you in a lane or tell you, say, this is what you need to do. And if you know in your mind what it is you need to do, okay, then find yourself a mentor, silence the voices that are not yours. And sometimes they are yours, but silence the voices that are trying to hold you back and just give yourself the time and the space to discover who you are because everyone is born a leader.
Everyone's a born a leader. And you know what? We're going to leave it right there. I want to thank you so much, Kalai, for
Thank you, Sophia.
joining
Yes.
me on my virtual
Oh,
sofa,
yes. It was
long
very
story
comfortable.
short. And thank you so much. I cannot wait for this episode to come out. I think it is very encouraging, inspiring, and just hearing your journey. As I said, I was sitting here, my heart was beating because
Yeah.
what you were saying was resonating with me
Yeah.
so much. Do you
Wonderful.
get what I mean? So
Mm.
thank you again.
Oh, thank you for your questions and just for having me. Yeah.